Hey, this is Malachi, the Artist One. 20 years ago, on 1/1 of 00, I released this album, A Nation of Stars. This was the follow-up to my album, A Generation of Time, which I had done in 1997, right here. When I started this album, I had no clue that 20 years later I'd still be focusing my musical attention on the Bible. This album was Genesis 1:1 to the flood. And it did quite well. I sold a lot of albums on that, and a lot of people liked it. This album took you from the flood to Isaac being sacrificed and being stopped by the angel of the Lord. But this album was a difficult album in the fact that I actually started making this album in 98, I believe. And then I stopped because I really didn't have I didn't know what to do musically. And so I ended up recording an album and kind of erasing everything except for the first 3 songs, which on this album is My Window, Empty, and The Rainbow. Which sometimes I go, well, maybe I should have erased those songs to get the other ones. Anyways, but that's another story. That's me never being satisfied with anything that I do. But however, even at that, and I'm still never satisfied even to this day, but I still know that I've got to release it, So I let go a little bit and allow just fate to take its course. But like I said, I did original some of this stuff in 98, and then I worked on it in 99, and then I released it 20 years ago, really right now. I actually had 2000 and Y2K. Remember the Y2K that was coming around? In 1999, I ended up releasing 3 albums. One was called I, the other was called Free, and the other one was called The Road Less Traveled, which I ended up having 3 songs. I had one chart in the top 10, one chart in the top 15, and the other one in the top 20. I think I have an album laying around here. And it was this album, The Road Less Traveled, which I had the song I Don't Think So, which went to number 7. I had a song called The Road Less Traveled that made it in the top 15. I think it peaked out at 12. And the other song was Thank You, or I think it was Thank You. Yeah, it was the top 20. Anyways, but and I totally spaced doing a 20-year remembrance of those albums, but I'm not going to do it on this one. And even though this is technically, I don't want to say it's my least favorite of all of them, but it was an album where I was deciding to make this journey to be the only guy, which I ended up being called the Moses of the music industry by one of the greatest rock promoters of all time, who just passed away just a couple weeks ago, a very dear friend. And this album was really kind of with this album too. When I did a Generation of Time, I had people who knew me, right? And they go, because I was a session drummer and I was doing a lot of work like that. And they'd say, oh, hey, Malachi, man, you need to be playing more. You need to showcase what you do and how you do it. And this is still back in the days of tape, I was using D88s, but technically they're just digital tapes and a board. So there was no editing. So when you record something, you have to, I never used clicks. So it was really a struggle to write, and I still write the same way. I never use a click. I always start off usually with drums. So it's always in my mind when I sit down behind the drums. I just start playing and I start playing. But back in this day, it was a lot more difficult because you only had tape. You didn't have any way to, as a guy playing all the instruments, to punch in, you know. So I would play the songs in their entirety every single time. And so it was very difficult. To keep it all sequential. And that's how I always record all my albums. Everything's always sequential, except for rites of passage. I kind of skipped around a little bit and then put them together. And you can hear that in the songs, and I don't like doing that. And even with this album, I did that a little bit. Like I said, the first 3 songs I originally wrote in '98, and then I came back and I wrote the rest of the album, I think in '99, in January, February, something like that. And so then a year later, I released it. So it brings back some good memories. There's some songs on here that I really like. There's some songs that was like, man, I could have taken it so much farther, you know. But I only had 24 tracks, you know. I didn't have what I have now, man. My last song I just did, I think I used 58 tracks, 60 tracks. So it was a lot different time back then. But the song "My Window" is actually lyrics were all written by my first wife, and I got married in '99. See, and so that's why this was the last album I did for 12 years, because my now second ex-wife, who gave me 2 beautiful children, by the way, she wasn't supportive at all musically. The biggest mistake I ever made, other than the fact that I had kids. But I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it in a way that, to be honest with you, God was telling me don't do it, but I did it, you know. So I paid the price. And I don't think anything would have changed, to be honest with you, because still to this day, there's nobody doing what I'm doing. And I'm just recently being recognized for things that I've been doing for 20 years. There's hardly anybody out there that's done there's nobody out there that's done what I've done. It's just the way it is. But anyways, let me open this up. I might actually have some of these laying around, maybe a handful of them. So if you want to buy them, just let me know. I'll sell them to you. And also back in the day too, kiddos, it was a lot more difficult to make a CD, especially with my stuff, which I was a firm believer of always having lyrics in your stuff, and not having lyrics so damn small you couldn't read them except with a magnifying glass. But you know, it was always important to have, you know, a book, and so it wasn't cheap, right? And of course, it's called Nation of Stars, so everything had an aspect of the stars, of outer space. So let's go. My window is obviously Noah looking out his window. Empty is how Noah felt while he was traveling on this the sea and not knowing when he would be set free. But he went through 40 days, which is 40 is a representation of probation, and probation for the earth to be rebaptized. Then track 3 is the rainbow, and that's just God's promise to Noah. Of course, now a rainbow means something totally different because the world tries to steal everything God creates. Track 4 was build, meaning building the Tower of Babel. It was I'd just gotten, well, I had a keyboard, but I'd gotten a new. It wasn't like today where you can download sounds. You actually had to buy cards and put them in. These cards weren't cheap. And then track 5 is To Touch God, and that's about the Tower of Babel. A New Beginning is track 6, and that is really about God finding Abraham amongst the people. Track 7 is The Nation of Stars, which was God's promise to Abraham that his offspring would be as numbered as nation as the stars. So that's like they are the nations of the stars, right? Track 8 was called War, which was actually that was the first recorded war in the Bible. And it was more of what I still say to this day, we don't need to fight the wars. God will always fight the wars for us. And he fought this war for him when Abraham was going to get Lot. And that it talks about that in the previous song, A Nation of Stars, where it talk about the strife between Abraham and Lot. And Lot taking the land of milk and honey and leaving Abraham with the crap. But ended up the land of milk and honey became Sodom and Gomorrah, so it didn't work out so well for Lot in the end. Then, of course, after the war, after Abraham believed, of course his name was Abram, but after he believed in God that he would fight his war, God established a covenant with him, right? And then, of course, there's deception. So there's a covenant. This is all, almost goes back to the garden. There's a covenant, and then deception comes in. The deception was Hagar. And not that Hagar was a bad person, and not that that was really a deceptive thing, but it was an aspect of Abraham's wife thinking that she couldn't have a kid, even though she was told that she would, or she'd be later told that she would have a kid. So, and then we have angels of fire, which was the angels that came to meet with Abraham. And they also the ones that went into the city. And then song track 12 is City of Sin, which is of Sodom and Gomorrah, which I always thought had a cool line. I am the city of sin, come inside, within my walls you cannot hide, all that you do is known. Within my sin you bow at my throne, something like that, I can't remember. When I write lyrics, I just write them as I get them, Let me try to find it here. City of Sin, where is that at? Where's that at in here? Okay, I am the city of sin, come inside, within my walls you cannot hide, all that you do is known, in your sin you bow at my throne, you can do your will desire, but in the end you'll feel my fire. I just thought that was a good line. So we have that song, and then we have The Sounds of Death, which was which was like 8 tracks of guitar, which I should play it for you. And if you go to my website, theartist1.com, my new website, I need to find it here, put it up here. Theartist1.com, there we go. That's the new site. Go check it out. You go to my music link, and you'll see all my music on there. So, So here's the City of Sin. But after this song, I do this 8 to 10 tracks of guitars. It makes it sound like death that's happening, No, I can't get it. I can't get it to fast forward through there. But if you go to the site, you'll hear the song. And at the end, it has this whole destructive thing happening with just the guitar. And which I don't know if I could ever reproduce it. Unfortunately, that's another thing with my music. I've never been able to play live with it because I write everything. I do everything. I play all the instruments. And I can never find other musicians that could keep up. I don't know how some of these other bands do it, I mean, they're lucky. But they all have backing, and they are not shadow banned. I've been shadow banned for forever. And that's a fact, because I have people within the FBI and CIA that have told me that for a long time. But let's get to the one of my favorite songs off this album is Forevermore. And that was this song about Abraham talking about his son. And he's praying for a son, then he gets a son, and then God's asking him to kill him. And then track 15 is just a short track called My Prayer. And then A New Nation closes it out. It's track 16, and it's just, God saying, because I can read it for you. That was the last song. Because thou hast done this thing for me, not withholding thy son from thee, I will make thee a nation of plenty. No man will ever deny what they will see. When they count the stars up in the sky, every time they'll count them, they'll grow on high, meaning they'll always be able to count them. Count their growth. Your blood and seed will devour all the things I know, meaning his offspring they will know everything. They will be everything. Not devour as in destroy, but to devour, to take over, right? And he will bring forth the life on which I grow, meaning Christ. And you'll bring the King, Christ, and the Christ will save all of the world for this today. My love for you is so strong. You're my people, and I love you. Carry on. I will bring unto you fire. I will bring unto you pain. But I'll show you the love I have to remain forevermore. That was the last statement and the last words in an album that wouldn't see its secondary rites of passage for 12 years. So 20 years have gone. To all the people that have supported me from the very beginning, I appreciate it. I am not the kind of artist, unfortunately, that I've never had any backing. I've never had I've had interest from record labels, but if I showed you what they wanted, you would understand why I've always stayed alone. And I've never had any other musicians playing with me. I've always had to, do everything by myself. That's why I'm called the Artist One. I went from trying to be just, originally I came up with the Artist One with this, when I just called myself One. And I think by the time I did this album, I was still calling myself One. So I wasn't even calling myself the Artist One. I think I was still calling myself One here. One. So anyways, I think it became the Artist One once I started dealing with websites and stuff like that. But, I would love to put together a band at some point in time. It's going to take so much money. It's God's doing. It has to be done. I don't have the resources. I don't have I just don't, my whole thing and all that I do musically is I give it to God 100%. He's in control 100%. I'm just the guy that I have everything done. I'm ready to go. Boom, boom, boom. If God was to come down and say, hey, here's, I've got open doors. We're going to do a show. We need to do a show. It wouldn't take anything. It's not like I go, oh, okay, now I'll get ready. No, I'm ready. I'll go, okay, let's go. Once God opens that door, I'll be out there. And I'm going to tell all the people that are fans of my music, let me tell you something. God has already promised me great things. So he has made a personal promise to me. I know that he is not going to, he's not a liar. So he keeps his promises. So there will be a time where I will finally be able to get my music out there to the masses, in such a way that, to be honest with you, the ultimate goal for me musically is to anyone that ever goes to my show will have a hard time leaving, because emotionally they'll be so drained that they'll all have to go out into their car and sit. That's how powerful I want my show to be. Lyrically, I know for a fact that there's nothing like it out there. There are no other artists out there that are doing what I'm doing. It's just the way it is. Anyways, signing out. Hug your kids, call your parents, go see a neighbor, repent, and be baptized. Go visit my website. All the music's there for free. If you if you have any insight, anybody, let me know. Feel free to contact me. I've got my crap together, as they say, in a nice form. Anyways, signing out. God bless y'all, and thanks. Thanks for the time. I've got a new album. I just released some songs, and I'm doing everything in segments now. But you can go to the website. It tells you everything. Lets you know what I'm doing. So we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Blessed am I, for you have heard my cry. Give me something more than I ever desired. But it's hard sometimes for me to realize that your love is never blind, forevermore. I see your love and my heart begins to soar. There is so much love that it's hard for me to store it all inside, deep inside of my mind. That's where the feelings come. Bless me now, you have given me a son to share this world as one forevermore. I will take unto thee responsibility to plant and continue to see the sun. I see your heart, and my love begins to grow. And I see your love, and it's an endless flow for all who seek to taste the water for all life. Give me life to grow. I see the need to share this word with all, be a nation of all, forevermore. And I know it's hard to understand that what you're here to comprehend is love.